Okay.
Okay.
So let's get to this beautiful piece. Once again, this is Rachmaninov Concerto number 2 with Tahelili from Estonia. And sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm not always as great with Estonian names. They're quite difficult. Okay.
So I thought this piano is not the best. It's really out of tune, and the piece is very fresh for
No
me.
problem. I'll just give you the ideas which are necessary. Maybe we do a bit of the first and second movement if you're ready to play, because this piece is a lot about the both movements and how well you can play them. The finale is really more of a technique and more of an ideas which you can see in the first two movements.
Actually, I haven't looked at the second movement yet so much.
Okay, then we will focus on the first one.
Okay. Yes, but
Don't worry, let's just get to it.
Okay, maybe the exposition or something, and I'll be playing a little bit slower than the real tempo.
Fine with me. Fine with me.
Should
Okay.
we continue? Or...
Yes, let me play for you just the introduction. Okay, thank you. Let me stop you here. This is undoubtedly a beautiful piece and one of the milestones of Rachmaninov repertoire for many people, and I think including some of the observers here. I wouldn't be wrong if I say that it's the most beautiful and favorite concerto of Rachmaninov. Just one reference so you can understand the slightly bit background of how this piece was written. Do you know the story a bit or not at all?
No, actually, I don't.
Okay, after the first concerto and after the first symphony, and really uh, it was a welcome which was not very well received by his first symphony. So Rachmaninoff actually suffered a breakdown, mental and emotional, because he took it very tough. And he also had personal tragedy, and all that was preceding the creation of this first concerto. Additionally, he had a series of visits to Dr. Dahl, and this person was basically treating him, well, in straightforward terms, from depression, if I can put it in a simple terms. Although he was a relatively young man when he wrote this concerto, he needed some kind of new form of inspiration and what to gain the momentum, because obviously he felt that his previous tries were not so successful, and he wanted really to supersede himself in creating this work. And what kind of great treatment and what kind of really great music came out of this, so comprehensive and so pure and so wide. Not That's why this concerto is devoted by the title to Dr. Dahl, because he was basically responsible for resurrecting Rachmaninoff's state of mind, and it's very important to know. So there are two things to know philosophically about the beginning, the first opening chords. I will just speak very briefly and then we get to the main thing, how to play this concerto. So the first thing to remember is really about the image of coming back from this state of mental limbo, we should say. And I always feel like whenever I play this music, like it's something that's coming back from far away, that you return, and you feel with every step you get closer. And imagine this gigantic figure of Rachmaninoff. He was quite a uh, tall man, like an Asian legend when he appeared on the stage, and it's reflected in many letters of his contemporary. And he's coming back slowly at you. He sits at the piano and starts to play. That's the image you should imagine. Something's approaching gradually. So these notes, actually, it's not a simple chords, but it's a steps. Right foot, left. And then you build it up all the way to here, right? To be honest with you, in terms of tempo, I'm not a big adamant, I'm not a big supporter of fast tempo here. Although some pacing should exist if we're talking about steps, right? Unless you want to picture a very old man who walks like this one foot and then another, which is not the case. Rachmaninov was always and is still full of energy when you sing. The other image you can have in mind is a big bell. In Russian terms, it's called rinda, and rinda is a huge bell. It only exists on the ships, especially on the warrior ships. Big size, which you pull from side to side, and it starts to strike the tone of the bell and starts to beat this sound. So that's another. The mechanical motion, this pendulum, which moves from left to right, and that's basically how it goes, right? So that's the two images you have to imagine. If you do, pendulum is a keyword here because it directly reflects to the motion your hands needs to produce. And now we get to the practical part. So we start, you may use your pedal, left pedal, if you're really insecure about two piano, but I personally hate left pedal. I would rather rely on the fingers and the depths of how they can produce. If you can reach the tenths in the left hand, that is great. Can you?
I can, yes.
Okay, wonderful, yes. Because ideally, the Rachmaninoff fingers, he really wanted to 3 and 2 to be on a C and D flat, C and D natural, and C and E flat, respectively. So he does not want really any tricks with a 2 split, etc. You know, Vladimir Ashkenazy is a great interpreter of Rachmaninoff, but one drawback, he could never reach a 10, so he has to play. I'm glad it's not about you, but nevertheless, it's a great recording to hear. Then, I really recommend you to start pianissimo like it's written. Give it some pacing, but not too fast. And I will explain you why in a moment. But the first thing to remember is how you play the bass note. The bass note is a key note because it's actually a step of another finger or the return of this pendulum. And I think you should not play it with a pinky. Although it's very convenient and you basically travel back and forth. But if you think logically, it does not matter what finger you jump with. You either jump with a pinky or you can do what I did with the thumb. And do not let the thumb stay on the key because the sound will be this. And you see it's already too much. It's in the key and it resonates. As the register is very low, you have to be super careful with this. And instead, you take it and you basically go towards yourself like you're sliding and you clean in the key. This. And you see, if you slightly get deeper and deeper into the key as this crescendo develops, it really becomes to sound like this bell and it's what you need. Just a word of humorous interpretation of this place. I saw it in one of these master classes in Spain. What they did was absolutely terrible because they actually decided to play this note with the right hand. Not only you have to go back and forth around the left hand, but you also get a very completely different sound. It's wrong approach in my opinion because your pinky really has to concentrate on beating this top note, the C. So that's the most important. Now, I mentioned something about pacing and tempo. Well, one thing is to know that Rachmaninoff actually wrote Con Passione when the main theme comes, but he also wrote a tempo, which means keep the previous tempo. And I've seen countless number of recordings where they play beginning very slow, almost like this, not realizing that you actually have to continue this way. And it really sounds like a pensioner, I'm sorry. It's just much more a slower tempo than it's supposed to be. That's why it's very important when you study this concerto, thing number one to remember, find a golden middle of your tempo at the beginning because you cannot really change it much. Of course, you can speak to conductor and agree about anything that you want, but what you don't want to do is to play suddenly this slow. And if you play beginning too fast, it simply sounds not serious. So it's contradictory to the character, and that's not what I would recommend. Okay, try again just the very beginning, just for a few moments, please. Tahia, I'm so sorry. Early, too early. Just remember not to do it early. Already at the dominant chord, yes, it's actually a point where you traditionally have to make a crescendo in every music. Like if you start this slightly late, that's a turning point for a crescendo, but not before. You can actually do this crescendo by just without doing it by pendulum, and it's much more important the motions that you do. What's important is to know that your entire body works. Your fingers, which is a tip of the motion you address to it, the wrist, the elbow, forearm, and even back. That's where you're sending this sound. And what I call is a shock absorbing motion, soft, but at the same time moving. You know, I've noticed the way you play is only left hand moves, and it most likely be this, not more. I would really recommend you to record your own performance of this and then just watch how much motion you produce, because this is really not about crescendo but about the motion which creates this crescendo. Mechanic motion, I would say. So first is really close, and this is really soft. You see, maybe a quarter of the key. You don't play it to the bottom, but a beat, and then you slide off, then you quickly return here. But you see, entire hand works. And now you see my shoulders work. Actually, if you want to know the secret, it's a provocation of the bass to the next chord, not the other way around. Because if you think of, okay, I make crescendo just via these chords, it doesn't work. But it's a bass to the chord. And then you see the changes from the bass to the chord, like you passing a tennis ball to your player. That's how it is. Try this again and make sure the entire body it works, because I'm sorry you seem very tense for this beginning. Yes, Tahir, very good. It was already a bit better, and I'm sorry I'm stopping you many times because this beginning, it's a key defining moment of the pianist. Like Beethoven Concerto number 4, it's a big responsibility to start solo when you have a full orchestra, conductor, and maybe a bunch of people sitting there, because you don't play this concerto in a small hall, you play it usually in a big hall. So a lot of eyes are watching you, and I'm not saying this to scare you off this concerto by any means, but just so you understand, you have to show how great you are. So this is one thing I'm trying to motivate you. Another thing, when you move to this bass note, you see the entire hand. I can probably play like this entire day. How does it fall? Does it fall like this? Huh? Break and then play. No, fall. And it's a big art of dropping your hand on the cushion of the finger, so it does not create this nasty sound. But I'm actually playing not at the spot, I'm playing with this place right here. And this is a secret how it becomes possible. So you have to free yourself a little bit. I'm sorry, you cannot play this concerto with this kind of tension. And then I do crescendo only at the last maybe two, maximum three bar. Save it, right? Because you really need to build this tension, and then it resolves here. So that's how it grows. And then final thought: when you play these chords back to the right hand, nobody's forcing you to hold them. You can hold them as much as you wish, but when you play them again, slightly bit elevate because pedal does it for you, and then you play legato pedal right after and you catch it on the pedal. But if you play it with this kind of motion, it's completely different. It's this entire hand, free and yet soft sounds that you address to this. Okay, I promise it's the last time I'm asking you to play it, and then we'll go in much faster pace. So let's play this beginning and then continue. Angela. Okay, Tahi, good, good. Just one thing to remember, you don't have to turn back. It was already a lot better. Don't be so fast at the last note. You can actually delay this beat as much as possible. You look at the conductor and you start to play, but this is a ritenuta. So many young pianists actually rush. It's very contrary to this style. You build this tension to the very last moment. You pull it and then you release it. And then this theme starts. Now, one thing to know, because I hope you will play it with orchestra one day, and I really would like to hear that. One thing you to know, the way it was orchestrated is there are so many strings in the orchestra when you play the main theme in two double fortissima con passione. And since strings are sitting usually traditionally next to piano, they overpower you no matter what you do. So that's why Rachmaninov wrote kind of an accompaniment there. And it's a known fact that you will be heard but very little bit, especially they will overpower the basses here. So play the basses deep, and the solution to this, try to motivically show more this kind of guitar kind of things, because this is something that will pop up above the strings. Anything you bring the first octave and above will be heard in the piano, the louder and the higher you will get. So this is something you actually can get, but anything rather than this in the slower section, you you basically cannot get far louder than the orchestra will allow you. So this is not a possibility. And please keep this in mind. Then, just to skip, there are a couple of places where you really have to agree with the conductor. So this place is traditionally being slowed down here. Because the music changes, finally there is some dominant and he moves to another key, secondary dominant this. And then one thing is to remember to look at the conductor and maybe slow down here, because this slowdown is a key thing here. You need some kind of change after this dramatic beginning and all these strings that playing. something that you need to do. And then at number 2, over here. To know something very important. What is the instrument that plays the melody here at number 2? Any idea?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, what is the orchestral instrument that plays this melody at number 2?
Cello?
Correct. How does cello compare to 36 strings? Who is stronger? Of course, 36 strings playing together, right? So this is a mezzoforte sound, and it's basically as a cello sound. And here comes the opposite story. Piano has so much. And he also writes a crescendo, right? So you may overpower the pure cello if you won't be careful. The answer to this: be very careful with your own mezzoforte and make the sound quarter key, like you can touch the key. You see, I'm addressing the sound all the way to the bottom. But now make it on the surface. Go outside of the key with your wrist. So really this place you really have to phrase with your wrist. You see, now it changed my sound completely, because if you won't do it, the cello will be simply gone. And it continues 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 measures, right? So for the sake of really little time, I'm not yet asking you to play this. Then comes contrast, 2 forte, right? Okay. Yes, Rachmaninov wrote this for 4 notes under one slur. But I'd like to argue it's not one of them. It's actually several of them. Then you have now there are 5 notes. Again, 4 and 2. So this uneven subdivision of the slur is supposed to give you a hint that he does not want ta 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 ta, how you actually played first time, because this music develops. It's a constant, huge development. And the less punctuation, the less end of phrasings you put into this music, the better it will be for you actually to play this. So that's the best way. And I think you really need to go to the top note, bass, to here. So it's bass and then melody note in the next bar. Everything else is just sort of builds up to it and then recedes like a tide in the Baltic Sea, maybe, yes. So that's where it goes. And then the second phrase, same, maybe slightly bit more emotional and emotionally more filled. Okay, about this D major, you have to also agree with the conductor, because technically it's a culmination of the first section of this beginning, right? So this harmony and a big bass defines this culmination. So you might want to talk to the conductor, but there is no way to really communicate unless you look at him. He's why? Because the orchestra is usually very big for this. So he looks at, I don't know, 60, 80 people, maybe 100 sometimes next to you if you take BBC orchestra. He doesn't always have time to look at you if the music is so emotional. You have to catch him with the eyes, and you have to be very collaborative with him. This place is being discussed before the rehearsal, so make sure you bring it up if you want to address it. And I play it with a flat pinky, again with this spot. Do not play it with a lonely pinky because it will sound very even obnoxious and without really power. The Rachmaninov power is an entire hand, so you can actually put it down, pinky, and play with this part. It's much easier. Okay, and then so this is like about this section. Let's try to actually play number 2. Light. Remember to fly on the top of the keys like a butterfly rather than going suppressing this. And with the hands, they really, you have to go sideways or above. That's the idea. And the fingers, poor fingers resist. They want to hold on to this, and the wrist want to drag them out of this zone. Try again. Okay, good to hear. Just 2 things. You were playing wonderful this. You understood me very well. But then please, the orchestra will not slow down for you. Observe the tempo for that D flat down. And then really, I was actually waiting for you to really support into this bass. Don't delay and much more. 3. With the hand, you kind of have to toss your hand like you throw a ball into it. You throw and it's gone. And then what you do, you throw and catch it at the last moment. You should not do it. Right. Even flatter fingers, but they will give you more power. And then avoid accents at no cost. He never wrote any accent. If you show me one single accent here, I will give you €100. But I won't because there is none. I'm sorry. So you don't really put it there because you really make this top note with the hand motion, like you want to grow roots through this. Right? And it goes on, it doesn't stop right away. Can you try it from D flat? Okay. Now here he wrote already 3-4 times diminuendo. So again, more relaxed. After this emotional climax, very important to drop the dynamic down and do it sooner. Like I told you, crescendo at the beginning comes at the last moment. Here you do the opposite. You do diminuendo. You have to define for yourself levels. First diminuendo. After the decrescendo, mezzo forte. Then when you get to this harmony, mezzo piano. And then più piano, so slightly between a tinge of color between mezzo piano and piano. And don't bend this bass, this is a soft bass. So you have to actually play it carefully. Still with a flat finger. And number three is a question mark. You're like you're asking yourself, what's next? And you slightly bit has to delay it because sometimes the orchestra will delay here and you have to sort of mimic what it does. You see, don't forget that it's a place not for piano, but it's for you and orchestra. And until you play it with someone, or at least with a second piano, you won't realize it. So this is important thing. Now, this expressive theme, I really think there is an idea that you should use fourth finger for this G and fifth for the A flat. How is it possible? Well, I like to take this entire thing, including the G, in my left hand. Why is it so important? It's because otherwise you jump pinky pinky and the legato is gone. It just does not exist. You're going from a white key to a black key and it's needed kind of memory, like a ghost almost here appears. But it's impossible to achieve with these fingers. So take it. It's just much better beginning. So the only note you take into right hand is a C. And that allows you to play 4, 1, 5. Okay, you can change it later, it's just a suggestion. Now, for this place, I know it's the piece is new, so you're not playing yet in this tempo. But traditionally, with this diminuendo place, you usually make a slight accelerando, and this is something you should agree with to a conductor. And then you start to run. This is a really un poco più mosso. But un poco is a word. You don't start to play right away, but you speed it up together with an orchestra. And this place is the most difficult. You need to rehearse it countless number of times. If you get to the first rehearsal, ask conductor to do it several times, drive him nuts with this place, but this must be done in a proper manner because if it's not rehearsed properly, it will always be not together and will sound very funny. Two ideas about un poco più mossa. One is how to perform this. You know, you have to create some kind of for better articulation, what I call flat finger articulation. So it's a kind of articulation. You lift it lightly, but then you kind of play and you kind of press the sound under the palm because it gives you extra clearness. And you can do it for the right hand and for the left hand. And the second thing to remember here is that right hand starts and then the left hand always answers. It's not like a strict canon, but it's almost like a fugata here, polyphonic place, because you have to hear all these entrances of the left hand. And when it happens, immediately drop sound in the right hand. It's just this acoustical secret. It will always sound very good. I'm not asking you to play this place because you really need to work on this slightly more. So just remember these two things. And then this is very rhythmic. Okay, now we get to the other world and completely different uh, secondary movement of this secondary theme, sorry, of this place. Again, what is his marking there? Can you tell me? There's only two words that he wrote at the start of the secondary theme.
Actually, I only have piano written.
A tempo.
Oh, yes. That too.
Yes, so this is a key thing. He doesn't want this to be completely like lax and losing like a power here. He wants this to be really concentrated on what you basically play. And Rachmaninoff in general, he was not a very sentimental person. Well, he was sentimental about maybe one or two or three things in his life, including his homeland, Russia, which he kind of had to abandon. That he was sentimental, but it's not a sentimental thing that comes out of everywhere, so everybody is aware of. He kept it deeply inside the vault in his heart, so nobody knew about it. But at the same time, it feels so keenly in his music that I think you should know this and not to play it overly sentimental. That's the key thing. Just like a calm and philosophical speech. Can you try this section, please? Okay, Tahir. I would tell you a couple of things here right away. First, consider changing your fingers again here. First chord, 1, 3, 5. Then switch to 1, 1, 3, 4, 5. And then over here, when you reach this section, you know what you do? You openly and voluntarily give it up. Basically like this. This is very easy to do and very seductive, but the composer wrote, so you actually supposed to connect this. The finger in here is 1 between the keys, 2, 4, 5, and then make sure you hold F because your legato continues through that A flat, and you have to do it, really address it here. You have to look careful at the text and what Rachmaninov wrote. He didn't write, but he wrote, and then another gigantic slur. You see bigger slur, no accent, and you play. You see, you need to have a very long breath, inhale, exhale, and without so much attention to every individual detail. This music is every chord and every measure is a jewel. Let's face it, it's a diamond. And if we show every diamond how beautiful it is, the eventually audience will get tired of this clutter of really beautiful things. So they will start to look at it. Oh, this is beautiful. Okay, this is too. How much of this glitter can I get? My eyes get tired. No, show the most important ones. The important is this center. and only here. Even when he interrupts this, it's with anticipation and continuation that something else is coming. Again, this is not resolution. Goes here. Well, I exaggerate my written note, but basically how it should be. Also consider slightly bit showing the seconds. The moment you see second in your left hand, show it slightly bit more. I would really study separate hands and hear how it goes, right? So play this again, show me bigger line, bigger gigantic line, and without like succumbing and bowing at every place. It's not a Mozart. Legato everywhere. Legato everywhere. Legato to connected. Stick your right hand to the keys. Okay, here. 100 times better already, much better thing. Just please, I cannot allow you to play this note like this. Pour this harmony across the keys here. Not so loud. This is a slightly bit more intimate. If we're talking about nostalgic or something beautiful and forgotten, this is the place. So do not bang this bass. It's more like with a slightly bit disappointment or anguish, but the ones that does not recent, but has been gone many years ago. That's an idea. Slightly stand it here and then reach for the next notes. And then this part comes. So pretty much, much already better. And one last thing I just want to tell you about this secondary theme. Shockingly, but it's not so much emotionally different from the beginning. It's even more emotionally charged than your beginning, and this is a secret which nobody understands and knows. It's very passionate music, much more passionate than people think. They say, oh, it's a Rachmaninov Nega, you have to be really calm here. Yes, you do, but the passion is deeply inside, so it's more like you want to hug the world. And then look at those rests and also intervals between long note and then short note. He stops and then he continues with the left hand that gives emotional charge. The connectivity, how you play, is still not there, but it's almost not like passionate, it's impatient music, right? And the more you can keep it closely connected, the better it will sound, I think. Unfortunately, I wish I can teach you this all day, but we must start another masterclass on this server. And I hope you liked this and it should give you more ideas. We didn't get to the second movement, but as you said, you need to practice it. So if you want to play for me in the future, you're welcome to, of course. And this has been presentation again of Rachmaninov Concerto number 2, first movement with the Tahili Leaf.